Welcome back to Tempa Customs, and on this episode we are going to be working on this vehicle, which I don't believe has been seen on the channel before. I don't think. I may have glimpsed it on a different episode of what has to be done with it. So, quick history on this vehicle. This was my brother-in-law's Jeep, the one with the Hellcat, and it was starting to have some engine issues where the oil pressure wasn't holding anymore. And he was thinking about getting rid of it. And then when my middle son was driving his Porsche and needed something for the wintertime, they made a deal so that Andrew could then have the Jeep. And again, we knew that there were some oiling issues that we were aware of, and he drove it all last winter, I do believe. And then this year when he was driving it, the oil pressure when you'd start it would be fine, 60 psi or so. And it would steadily, very quickly, after you were driving it, drop down to nothing. And then what sounded like rod knock. I still don't believe it was rod knock, because if you gave it just a little bit of gas, it went away. And there was no oil pressure. The oil light was on. It was the gauge said 0. So it could be rod knock. It could have been valve. It sounded more like, well, it sounded like rod knock, but it could have been valve train. I'm hoping it's valve train noise, because there's just no oil up in the lifters or anything. But there is still a chance that this could have had some big end bearing noise. So that's how we were driving it. And again, we knew this was a problem. It wasn't like we bought this and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, the engine's got a problem. So we ordered up a new oil pump. Just because we knew we were going to do it, and then we ordered up a new oil pan gasket. This is 4-wheel drive, and they can be a pain, I guess, to get the oil pan down around the axle. I don't know. We're going to find out. But this has been sitting since May, and I will show a quick photo here of why it's been sitting since May. So that morning I was at work and I got a call from my son who said I was just leaving in the Jeep and it blew oil everywhere. And I'm like, well, you can't drive it, obviously. And I don't know if his Porsche was running that day. I think he was driving it because his Porsche, we were working on another issue with the Porsche, but that's neither here nor there. He's been driving his Porsche every day now, so it's fine. But he sent me pictures, and the bloodbath of oil that was on the driveway, I mean, there's still an oil stain from where it happened. It basically pumped out all the oil. So we haven't started it since then. When I got home, I looked at it, and you could see that the oil filter gasket had been blown out of the way. So it actually pushed the oil filter rubber O-ring out and pumped a ton of oil out. I'm going to check to see how much oil, if there's anything oil left in the oil pan, and then kind of go from there. We have a couple routes we can do. One is to hopefully just put a new oil pump in it, and the oil pressure will come back and it'll be fine. We did purchase an oil filter cutter. We're going to cut open this oil filter and see how much glitter's in it. And there is a chance that if it's really bad, it leaves us two other options. One, flush it as best we can and roll some new big end bearings, crank bearings into it. If they're that bad, we'll check when we get on. Once we get the oil pan down, we can check to see if there's any movement in the connecting rods. And if there is, then we got to make the final decision of, do we put new bearings in with how much trash has gone through this block, or do we just get a Facebook Marketplace engine and just swap in 4.0s? These 4.0s are relatively inexpensive. I just actually checked. There's a couple in my area for around $400. They're over 100,000 mile engines, but these 4.0 blocks are pretty robust. They're basically the same as Ruby and Rusty's engines for the most part. If you want to fuel inject a CJ, you can actually take the head off of a XJ or a YJ, and they bolt off these 4.0s, they bolt right on, and you can have fuel injection, which is a possibility in the future for Ruby or Rusty. But again, sidetrack. So today my plan, for today only, my plan is to do some research and try to diagnose how bad this is going to be. So we're gonna get in here, I'm gonna check the oil, like check how much oil is left in it, if anything. We'll pull the oil filter, cut it open, probably drain the oil out of the pan because we're gonna have to take the pan off anyway, and see how bad this actually is. So I'd like to have this thing back up and running for the winter time, and it's actually abnormally hot today. It's almost the end of September, and it's in the mid 80s. It's quite warm, but temperatures are going to be dropping here, and we're going to want to put the Porsche away for the winter time. So let's see how bad this is. Let's see what is left in this pan. 14. This pipe could be fun to get this around. Oh, that wasn't very tight at all. Okay. I'm hoping we find some oil in here, obviously. I'm hoping it didn't pump it all out. Oh good, we got some, that's good. Two reasons. One, at least it may have been pumping something for a split second before it completely failed. And two, you can see there's any glitter in it. I actually don't see anything in the pan right now, which is kind of a good thing. Doesn't look terrible. Oh boy, there may be something in there. Oh yeah, there. There may be glitter in there. Huh. We're gonna find out. Now, where did all the oil go to, you ask? Well, if you look right there, you can see the oil filter gasket is no longer where it belongs, and it blew out along the end of the side of the block. So we're gonna pull that, so I'm gonna cut that open. We're gonna take a look inside there and see how bad that is. So let me get the filter off and we'll get it cut open. Here we go. The gasket just ripped, focus, the gasket just ripped apart. Now, is this unrelated to the other problems? It could be. Could the oil pump have failed and gone to like infinite pressure? Possibly. I honestly, I don't know. This could have just happened even if the engine was running just fine. But again, I don't know. But I have a feeling something happened to cause pressure to build up and blew this gasket out. That's why we're going to replace the oil pump, just because something was wrong with that. Because the oil bypass should have taken care of any kind of overpressure like that. Yeah, so let me drain the filter, let it drain out for a second, and then we'll cut it open. This is one of those tools that you see on TV that these guys use, and you're like, who the heck needs an oil filter cutter? That just seems ridiculous. So I had to have one. So we just got one, and we decided it's not going to be a bad tool to have. It's an Amazon cheapie, but I don't. It's just a can opener. I don't see why you need to buy a super expensive one. And all it does is basically a gigantic pipe cutter. You put the oil filter in there, which I can't do yet. Put a little bit of oil in these threads. Already running smoother through there. Ooh, close. Almost. Bigger than it looked. I'm sure it's very sharp.
What?
I'm sure it's very sharp now.
Oh yeah. A very interesting tool.
It's a big can opener. There we go. There's like carbon crud in there. Can you give me some paper towels?
Yeah.
Just a handful of them, because that way. What is that to?
What?
Oh, that's off the tool. What the heck? How did the tool already lose a part? Wow. Wow. So. Am I going to be surprised if there's a lot of metal in here? No, absolutely not. I'm kind of expecting it. But it's been sitting for so long, hopefully the majority of it is settled in the oil filter, and it'll be at the bottom. Tell you, I'm not seeing what I was expecting to see.
Anything inside of it?
No. Hold on. Ooh, this filter is cruddy.
There's a lot of gunk in there.
Yeah, I only went last time seeing an oil change. It could have been the filter itself blew out its own thing because oil couldn't get through it.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of metal though. Like, I don't see metal.
That's good.
Flake in there.
This looks like a lot of.
This is crud.
That is like black sludge stuck
stuck in the filter.
Yeah.
So that could be why this thing had such low oil pressure.
Yeah.
It couldn't even get through the filter.
Yeah. It looks like you took tar and stuck it in there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you throw a new filter in it, if the oil pressure comes back and it runs good again.
Probably.
I might send Andrew out to go get oil and filter and see what happens. We may... Stink bug. We may not have to do much with this, which would be amazing.
Yeah.
So, sadly enough, I think this hopefully is just neglect from from not doing an oil change. This is like, there's like tar in here. That's what it feels like. Look, it's like sticky. I don't feel metal flake though. Like, and there's nothing glittery in it. There's definitely nothing inside here that would indicate metal. I think I'm going to recommend that we throw an oil filter on this thing, get some fresh oil in it, and fire it up and see what happens. If this is so clogged up that oil couldn't get through it, and maybe why the oil pressure was going so low. We're going to find out. So I sent Andrew out to pick up a new oil filter, and picked up a Wix, which is what people tend to like right now. My thought process, and it very well could be wrong, is that if the oil pump blew out the oil seal, the oil O-ring, oil filter O-ring, because the oil filter clogged up, that would mean that the pump is pumping strong enough, is my thought. What I'm hoping. So we're just going to throw in this new filter, top it off with oil, and start it and find out what's happening. I mean, it was, again, it was running. It's not like it wasn't running. And I don't see any metal in the filter. I'm going to check the pan when I pull the pan out from underneath. See if there's any flake in there. We may get lucky on this one. Okay, filter's in. You put the drain plug back in, and we'll put oil back in it. Feeling raindrops coming in. We're gonna try to jump this because the battery's completely dead, and it's not gonna make it, I don't think. Do you have enough?
Can't feel which one's positive, which one's
Let
negative.
me see.
I think this one's positive.
That's positive, yes.
Negative.
I can negative anywhere, yes. So go see if it'll do something. Whoa. Is the door open?
Yeah.
Whoa. Not happy with something.
It's not happy with something.
It's got, yeah, it's definitely a positive side. Trying to find a better ground that I like better. Try that.
Try that.
Yeah. Let me try my battery. Maybe my battery disconnected.
Do you need me to start the Jeep?
Try it. Do you have lights?
No lights.
Maybe I have a bad ground. No, but can you grab these oil drain pans and throw them in the shop? Whoa!
Got spark?
You have something now? Oh, wait a second. Hold on. That was bad. I reversed them. Try it now.
Yeah, we just plug in and doesn't matter.
Try that. Try it. Oh, hold on. Try it again. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, try it. Okay, stop. It's drawing too much current. Hold on. These jumper cables suck. It's probably what it is. Try it again. Try it again. Stop. We're welding over here. Try it again. No. We need stronger jumper cables or something. These are getting hot.
Huh.
That's normal if this battery's that dead. It's been a couple days since we shot the last part. It's been raining on and off for the past few days, which is good because we've needed the rain. I'll just drop that there. And I'm not going to lie to you, I have impatient children. And my son, whose this vehicle is, couldn't wait. But that night after we did the oil change, and it was raining, and it was dark, he had to come out here and see if it started. And it's not my vehicle, and who am I to stop him? I was kind of curious myself. So, came out and started it, and it sounds fine. It sounds great. When warming up, it has about 80 psi of oil pressure, which we'll check again. I'm just checking the oil because I haven't checked it since we put oil into it, and he has run it. He wants to drive it to work, and I'm fine with that too. Okay, so we're a little low. I gotta add the other quart. I put about 4 quarts in. It's gonna need a 5th quart. Rockers aren't ticking, or lifters aren't ticking. There's no rod knock. And I did talk to my son, who said that my brother-in-law, who owned this vehicle before we got it, did an oil change on this thing within the last year. So I'm not 100% sure why that filter was so clogged up. What we're probably going to do, though, is put some Berryman's or some Seafoam in the oil and do an oil change sooner than later and see if we can get some more of that crud out of there, because obviously there's a lot in there. So yeah, 5 quarts of oil should be good for this engine. Double check it here. Oil filter's not leaking. It did oil that side of the engine quite well. The frame, that's not going to rust anytime soon. And it's been dripping a little bit. I think it's just literally just dripping residual off of the frame. Because it's not a big, it's just there's a small, about that size, $50 size spot underneath it that keeps kind of moving around wherever he puts the Jeep. And I'm just assuming it's just residual oil. Yeah, we're good. We're good. He drove it yesterday. Came home from work and drove it. And he said after warming up and driving it around and getting gas in it, that the oil pressure dropped down to about 10 psi. So he did a quick Google search, because I know the rule of thumb on this stuff. The rule of thumb on this stuff is 10 psi per 1,000 RPM. That's pretty much the average. As long as you have 10 psi per 1,000, you should be fine. And the spec on this one at idle is 13 psi. That's on the low end. You don't want any. That's what their low end spec is, 13 psi. And so I'm going to start it up here and idle it up and see what it does. He said as soon as you start to drive it, it goes back up to like 70, which is perfect. I mean, that's good psi. So let's jump in and start it and look at it and see what it's doing. This has got, I don't know how many miles does this thing have on. I don't even know. 158, almost 159. Oil pressure is climbing. $80 psi. Now I am hearing something today. Sounds like top end though. Sounds like it's coming from more here. Again, there was no metal. There was nothing in. So if it's a bearing that's gone bad, there should have been, and still should be, metal coming out of the engine or out of the oil, even if there was an oil change done. And the oil change done less than a year ago would have shown metal as well that they would have noticed. And the noise has gone away. Yeah, it's completely gone away. The oil pressure's dropping, which is kind of normal. Oil gauge is slow to respond. Wonder if it's full of sludge as well. But that's why I'm gonna run some Berrymans and see if it helps just wake everything up. So we're driving and I don't know, it's doing 40 miles an hour, about 30 PSI, which isn't like amazing, but it's not terrible. Before, just to keep it, the check gauge light from coming on, you had to be on the highway doing like 80, and you just keep the oil pressure up high enough. And when I stopped at a couple stoplights, the oil pressure has gone down to just over 10. I mean, we're at temperature now, so in theory we're kind of low, but we're also running at about 500 RPM, maybe a little more, about 600 RPM. So if your rule of thumb is 10 PSI per 1,000 RPM, at 10 PSI for 650 RPM, we're still plenty good enough. Now we're running, right now I'm running, what? Let me get up to 1,500 RPM. So 1,500 RPM right now, and our oil pressure is 10, 20, almost 30 PSI. So it's doing what, like double what it needs to be for bare minimum. So, and again, I think as this thing cleans out, it's going to get better. That sludge has got to be everywhere in this engine. So, I don't know. I think for right now, we're okay. We do have the stuff to do the oil filter and pop the oil pan off if needed. I don't think we're going to do that right now, though. See how it does. Let them drive it for a couple weeks. Let him take it to work for a couple times and see if it's still driving okay. I mean, there's some things now that I'm driving it that he needs to address, like the steering is really sluggish, so I think his power steering's low, or his tire pressure is low, one of the two, and his suspension is really bad. I think he needs new shocks. This thing, when you hit the brakes, it nosedives pretty bad, and then when you accelerate it, it rocks the nose up. So I think he needs new shocks on this. So a couple odds and ends I'm going to address and let him know that he should do. But I think as far as drivability, I think we're good. I honestly think, literally, it has sat since May because of an oil change. But I also wouldn't have known that without buying. The front axle's making some noise too. We'll have to address that as well. The front axle's making a ticking noise. But anyway, that oil filter tool, Had we not bought that oil filter tool and cut it open, I would have had the oil pan off this week and been putting an oil pump in that is probably not needed yet. So there's our RPM, and there's our oil pressure. Again, is it ideal? Probably not. I should probably check what the RPM for the engine is and maybe bump that up a little bit because that seems kind of low. But it idles just fine. And it goes right up. It's not like it doesn't have pressure in it. It doesn't have oil pressure. So I'm going to call that good for right now. If something else goes wrong, you'll see it on another episode. If this is not the fix for what was going on, we'll be tearing into it again. But hopefully for a little while, I mean, again, he's going to need an exhaust because there is a hole in it. But I don't know if I'll do an episode on that or not. But for right now, hopefully it was literally just oil change. And he's good to drive it all winter. I mean, he can put the Porsche away. So with that, we'll end the episode. So thank you all for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope everybody has a great week.